Williams and Kennedy, Sheridan, Uribe, and Gurelt, and Greg Maddux staked to a 1-0 lead, ready to go in the bottom of the first inning. A 19-game winner who lost game 1 to Gurelt and the Giants. Ball 1 to Brett Butler. Butler 3 for 12, has scored 4 times in the series. Always a threat to bunt. And again, Salazar and Grace have to shorten up at the corners. 1-1. Last night we saw 2 pitchers get in a lot of trouble because they couldn't make the defensive play. Mike Lacoste and Rick Sutcliffe. Maddux is a very good fielder. Good breaking ball. 1-2. 4 times this year Maddux was knocked out of a game very early. And his second game following that bad start, he pitched pretty well, and in 2 of those 4 he pitched very well. We'll see what all that means tonight. Curveball hit to the right side to Sandberg. 1 away.
Maddux is pitching on 3 days rest, remember, from game number 1 in Wrigley Field in Chicago, but he threw just 89 pitches. He was extremely nervous in that game number 1. He's 23 years old, very difficult to handle the first taste of postseason pressure, and he really felt it.
Last night's hero, Robbie Thompson, who hit that 2-run home run against Les Lancaster. Fastball for a strike. Remember, going in, the Cubs' strategy was to keep the top 2 hitters in the Giant lineup off the bases. It is very obvious in the 2 games the Giants have won, the top 2 hitters have been on the bases. The game they lost, they were shut down.
We have a little ground crew problem, it looks like, down the third base line.
Couple of heavyweights visiting, going after that ball.
Knocking fences down.
Watch this. I mean, there's a little Aberdupois leaning over that railing. Golly.
I tell you, Filippelli and Rosenberg, they get every shot and every replay, don't they?
0-2 to Robbie Thompson. That's about a 5 on the Richter scale. Fastball. 1-2. You joined us late. A fly ball lost by Kevin Mitchell for a double, a single by Dwight Smith, and a scoring fly ball by Mark Grace. And the Cubs have taken a 1-0 lead. Waiting on deck, Will Clark. Two balls, 2 strikes. 3-2.
Be interesting to see what happens here. Robbie Thompson, dead fastball hitter. He runs the count to 3-2. What are you going to throw him? Go back with another breaking ball or the fastball?
Fastball missed. Well, it is a bull market, this Pacific Stock Exchange, and here's the first of the 2 horns. Will Clark and Kevin Mitchell back to back. Boy, you talk about a left hook and a right cross. And Clark bangs it to center. Base hit. Thompson is going to go to third. Walden's throw cut off by Dunston.
The beautiful swing of Will Clark going right up the middle. Not a bad pitch, down and away. There's nothing that he can do with that other than a single, and that's all that he tries to take. And that's why Will Clark hit .333. Another hitter would try to pull that ball and hit a ground ball on the right side. You see Thompson coming all the way around. Bill Fahey telling him to get down. Boy, another typical first inning of a National League Championship Series, the way it's been every game so far.
So Will Clark at first, Robbie Thompson at third, 1 out, and Kevin Mitchell at the plate. Cubs leading 1-0. Fastball for a strike. 0-1. Where the Cubs have scored 11 runs in their first innings, the Giants have scored 6 in their first prior to tonight. Mitchell during the year had 7 scoring fly balls. Missed the corner. 1-1.
Maddox's first 2 pitches trying to stay away from Kevin Mitchell. The worst thing that you want is the 3-run home run in this situation. You might give up a run for an out if you can. There's the slow-mo with the pitch, and the pitch outside caught by Rona. Trying not to give something to Kevin Mitchell down and in where he can extend those arms. Tremendous power if you let him extend from the middle of the plate in down in the hitting zone.
Fake to third, a look at first. Mitchell has had this kind of a year. He's been intentionally walked in the first inning. He's been intentionally walked representing the winning run on base in the 9th inning. He was intentionally walked 3 times in 1 game. 1 ball, 1 strike. Fastball chopped to third. The play is to second. A double clutch by Salazar. He didn't get the ball out of his glove right away, and they lost the double play because of it, and we have a 1-1 tie.
Mitchell does not run extremely well, and in order for the Cubs to be able to get the double play on a ball that was chopped, there's really no margin for error because the ball was hit in a choppy fashion down to third base, and just the double clutch by Salazar prevented the double play.
Matt Williams a strike, and the count 0-1. Will Clark, who bruised his knee in a collision with Dodger catcher Mike Scioscia near the end of the year, and that knee and shin area has been bothering him ever since, and obviously hurting him yet again. 0-1. On the fists, hit down to Grace, a busted bat, the out at first, and the fence is down again off third. So they got a ball. Now they were dodging a bat. And this ain't bad for the first inning, huh? A 1-1 tie. Not only bruised himself, he might have bruised the rule book. Watch it, his right arm as he tries to break up the double play, and you tell me whether that's not interference. And you can see immediately Sandberg pointing, saying, hey, he interfered with me. Well, Clark has paid a price as he limps back to the dugout, but he also saved a run for the Giants. And we have a 1-1 tie in the 2nd inning.
Judgment call on the umpires. They fixed the wall down that outside the Chicago Cub dugout. The umpire at second base, Randy Marsh, a judgment call in that sense was Will Clark trying to interfere with Sandberg, or was he trying to get a knee out of his face? Like Doug Harvey said yesterday in a couple of calls that we had in the game, it's really something that has to be made immediately, and that's how the decision stands, because it is strictly not an interpretation of the rule, but a judgment call from the umpire.
It was such a wild first inning. Here's the broken bat on the pitch to Matt Williams. A huge sliver will go flying over to the VIP seats. Grace quietly goes about his business and steps on the bag. But like Jericho, the walls come tumbling down yet again. Man overboard. Boy, I tell you, there's some heavyweights over there knocking that wall down and having a good time about it, too. Second inning, Luis Salazar in a 1-1 tie. Salazar, Dunston, and Rona in that order. Salazar hitting .364. He's had a good series. Fouled right into Kennedy. Boy, that shook him up. 2-1. I guess it was the great Mo Berg who once referred to them as the tools of ignorance, the badge of courage as well. 2-1. Fastball hit to straightaway center. Butler going back, away back to the track, to the wall. It is gone. Home run, Salazar. Remember, Scotty Garrelts in the first game uncharacteristically gave up home runs to Grace and Sandberg. Now he gives one up to Salazar, and it's 2-1 Chicago.
Now, I've been 23 extra base hits in this series. I asked Elliot Kalb, our Mr. Stats up here in the booth, to do some homework for us.
Oh, the fans
they threw it back. There have been 23 extra base hits in this series, and there's only been one extra base hit of the 10 home runs when the hitter has been behind in the count. Every other time, as we take another look at Salazar, hit that ball a long way to center field. Every other time we have had an extra base hit, meaning a home run, triple, or a double, the hitters have been ahead in the count, or at least even 3-2. One of the things that has occurred in this series is that the pitchers have continually been behind. I talked to Dick Pohl, the pitching coach for the Chicago Cubs. I saw him before the game. I said, "What's up?" He said, "High fastballs," and they've been up the entire series.
0-1 the count to Sean Dunston. 2-1 Chicago, second inning. 1 ball, 1 strike. I remember years ago going to Japan, and the Japanese fan would always return the foul balls, and people were always amazed at that. That takes care of Dunston. Now in Japan, the fans have learned to keep the foul balls, but suddenly with the rivalry between Chicago and San Francisco, if the opposition hits one out, you throw it back in. And the batter will be Rick Rona. Rona caught Maddox in the first game and had a tough at-bat against Garrelts, striking out twice. 0-1. One of those at-bats you may remember came in the second inning after Salazar tripled. Dunston struck out, and then Rona struck out, and they wound up leaving Salazar. At the time, that would have tied up game 1. 0-2 the count to Rona. Greg Maddux on deck. So Garrelts has struck him out 3 times.
Here you see the slow-mo of the curveball. You can see the fingers coming over the top of the ball and how it tumbles away. Kennedy set up outside, having protect against 2 strikes. Good pitch right in the corner. There's no way that you can really do much with it. The best shot you have is trying to foul it off.
1 ball and no strikes to Greg Maddux. Greg, a good hitter during the regular year. A chopper to the left of Uribe. That'll be that. 1 run, 1 hit, 1 swing by Luis Salazar, and it's 2-1. The Goodyear Blimp Columbia, based in Carson, California, with Charles Russell, the pilot. 1989, the 64th consecutive year that Goodyear Blimps have flown over major sporting events. That's a nice touch out in the West to have Charles Russell as the pilot. 2-1 in favor of Chicago. Terry Kennedy, Pat Sheridan, and Jose Uribe. Fastball for a strike. So Maddox a little bit different than he was in the first game. You have more of a feeling here that he's going after the hitters. He's not as tentative as he was in game one. Breaking ball away, 1-1.
Looked like he was trying to overthrow a little bit in game one too, which certainly would be evident for somebody that was be nervous, trying to do a little bit more than you're capable of doing.
1-1. Off speed. Oh, what a good pitch, and Kennedy way out in front of it. 1-2.
That is a nasty changeup. But as hard as he throws, he's not an overpowering pitcher, but when he can spot the changeup, you can see the movement of it down and away. Great pitch, great release point. That was a beauty.
Back with the fastball, and he rings him up. So after a 78-mile-an-hour change, he comes back with an 89-mile-an-hour fastball and puts him on the shelf.
Oh, that's a great piece of pitching. Both sides of the plate, working both sides of the plate, changing speeds, making the hitter be defensive of the inside part of the plate. He's got to protect the outside part of the plate. You know, he just threw me an off-speed pitch away. Now he comes hard in. I can't hit either one of them.
One away, and Pat Sheridan, the right fielder. Ground ball, perfectly positioned as Dunston. He threw a sinker to Grace, but Mark stayed with it. 2 down. We mentioned that last night. Dunston has a habit of gripping the ball across the seams and throwing sliders and sailors, and Grace does a truly remarkable job of handling those throws that come at such great velocity with all kinds of movement on them. Mark says he'd rather try to catch him than hit them. And here's Jose Uribe. Uribe had a key base hit against Maddox in game one. Foul back. It set the table for the eventual grand slam by Will Clark, hitting a very solid 300 in the series. Cubs 2, Giants 1. Second inning. 1-1. Two balls and 1 strike.
It was talked earlier in game number 1 of the series of possibly playing Ernie Riles at third, moving Matt Williams over to short, getting a little extra pop in the Uribe spot. But Roger Craig has talked about how good his defense has been all year and left Uribe in there.
Ground ball to the right side to Sandberg. That will take care of the Giants. They go quietly in the second. At the end of 2-1 Chicago. And
Game 4 of the National League Championship Series is brought to you by your Toyota dealer. Whatever car or truck you choose, you'll love the quality. Who could ask for anything more? And by NCI. We are the better long-distance company. NCI. Let us show you.
we move to the third. Cubs 2, Giants 1. Jerome Walden to start it off. Breaking ball away. Walden popped up to the right side. 0 for 1. Remember, earlier this year he had a 30-game hitting streak, and the Cubs are hoping he'll catch fire. He drives one to left field. Mitchell going back on the track at the wall to pick it off. Long out to left, 1 away.
The difference in the two ballparks, this ball hit by Walton in Wrigley Field in Chicago, if the wind's blowing out just a little bit, you can call it a home run. You can see the flags in center field, straight down, just a 2-mile-an-hour plus blowing around on the inside of this ballpark. It is absolutely gorgeous in San Francisco.
Ryne Sandberg with a fly ball lost by Mitchell and dropped for a double. Big breaking ball, and he couldn't hold up. So Sandberg has hit in all 9 league championship games in which he has played. Dwight Smith on deck. 1-1.
I think Roger Craig has seen Ryne Sandberg get enough fastballs in the strike zone. 2 curveballs here, lots of curveballs his first time up. Or else is going to feed him a lot of breaking balls.
There's another one, and that's in there. 1-2. Scotty Garrelts was on the disabled list for the Giants for 2 weeks in July with a strained left hamstring. He hurt it while running out a triple against the Cubs. And the breaking ball got him swinging. So Sandberg doesn't look like the same hitter, one breaking ball after another.
Well, the key, of course, is getting the breaking ball over. Being able to throw it for a strike where you can keep throwing the breaking ball. What's been happening in this game as we see the slow-mo of the fingers, see the fingers just on the side and the ball breaking away from Sandberg, a big differential in speed. The curveball about 80 miles an hour. Garrelts throws a fastball in the low 90s.
For good measure, he throws a split finger as a change. And he's working now on Dwight Smith away. 2 balls and no strikes. Smith, a sharp single to right field in the first inning. Hit it so hard, Sandberg could only go to third. 3-0.
What's been happening a lot in this series is the hitter's been getting behind. You see the scouting report, not a good breaking ball hitter. Like many young hitters, a good fastball hitter will want to hit against the fastball early in the count because they don't want to go deep into the count and have to swing against the breaking ball.
Big at bat for him with 2 out and Grace on deck, and he has won the battle. And anytime he can give Mark Grace a chance to swing the bat against Scott Garrelts, that's a successful at bat for Dwight Smith. So the 2-out walk gives Grace yet another chance. Mark hit that line drive at Pat Sheridan in the first inning and picked up the RBI barely as Sandberg was able to just beat Sheridan's throw in the drop tag by Terry Kennedy. So Grace is still 7 for 10 against Scotty Garrelts. With 2 out, it's a question of what Zimmer wants. Does he want to keep Will Clark on the bag, or does he want to turn Dwight Smith loose? Smitty stole 9 during the regular year. Short lead. Scott Garrelts, the National League earned run average leader. Cubs leading 2-1 in the third. And there he goes. The pitch is a strike. The throw not in time. Backed up by Uribe. So Zimmer obviously would rather have Smith in scoring position than just lead the hole on the right side.
One of the things Zim said that he was going to do in Chicago right before game number 1 was run against Terry Kennedy. A tough pitch to throw on. Terry kind of came around the side.
Here's an interesting point now. You know all about how Grace wears out Garrelts. Yet Andre Dawson is not hitting on deck. Are you even going to bother to pitch to him?
Right-hander to right-hander from the on-deck circle. A ball and a strike that counts. Free pass. Go to first base so I know right where you are.
Well, they're pitching to him. That breaking ball stayed up. 1 ball, 1 strike. Grace hitting .727. Breaking ball punched on the ground to Uribe, who sets for the throw. High throw. Coming to the plate is Smith. The throw. He is out. Will Clark does it again.
Uribe had plenty of time. Just a high throw. Will Clark does it every time. He comes up looking and has the expectations.
Lions 2-1. Scott Garrelts, Brett Butler, and Robbie Thompson. That's a strike to Garrelts, who has to be feeling very chipper about things, even though he's losing. The Giants got away twice. First, they pitched to Grace, hitting over 700. Then, Uribe makes an error, and they still get out of the inning. Ground ball to Dunston. Cranks it up. 1 away.
Here's a look at that double play ball. The third out of the inning, Uribe makes a high throw to third. If nothing else, an example of how many ways that Will Clark can beat you. Heads up all the time. It's the third time that we have seen him do this in the series. Come down and reflect. He threw to third in Chicago. He threw home to Kennedy before in Chicago, and he blocked the plate, and here he does it again. He beat you with his bat. He beat you with his arm. He beat you with his head. Always anticipating what might be the next play.
1 ball and no strikes to Brett Butler. So Will Clark figuring prominently in the Giants story all year long, and the main character right now. Fastball at the knees, 1-1. Cubs 2 runs, 3 hits. Giants 1 run, 1 hit, and 1 error charged to Uribe. Salazar on the grass. Grace has shortened up, looking bunt. Full swing, off the glove of Maddox. Off balance throw. Great save by Mark Grace. He threw it away, and that ball would have wound up down in the Giant bullpen, and Grace made a big save. So Butler's at first. He would easily have been at second.
One of the little subtleties of the game of baseball is the size and dimensions of your ballpark. Maddox is a good athlete. Still trying to get the out. Butler runs extremely well. Now, if Grace does not get that ball, remember, this ballpark, see how much room there is over behind first base? Over to the wall. Look, the spaciousness of this ballpark. That ball will go all the way over to where the tarpaulin is. Butler would easily had second, possibly third.
Here's Robbie Thompson with 1 out. Salazar, you would think if you just arrived in the game, it's about the 7th inning. He is so close to the bag. 2-1 Cubs, bottom of the 3rd. Butler, 31 stolen bases during the regular year, and Maddox very conscious of that. Butler has not tried to steal a base so far. In fact, the Giants have 1 stolen base, and it was Uribe. One ball, no strikes. On deck, and I'm sure if you're a Cub pitcher, you think he is always on deck, is Will Clark. Down to Grace, not in time. And the count 2 balls and no strikes to Robbie Thompson.
One of the things in this series that has been so evident is the pitchers, when they've been getting behind. Here we have a 2-0 count to Thompson. They get behind, they don't make a quality pitch. We've seen a lot of high, mediocre, aimed fastballs right about the letters to hitters when we're in the 2-0, 3-1 count. 3-2 count. There have been a lot of high pitches up in the hitting zone, not up above the strike zone, but right in the good part of the hitting zone. Pitchers have not been trying to make quality pitches. They've just been throwing pitches in those situations.
2-0 to Robbie Thompson, who walked in the 1st inning and came around to score the Giant run. There goes Butler. Ground ball, foul outside of 3rd, and the count 2-1.
He did it last night when the count got to 2-0 for Robbie Thompson. He hit the ball out of the ballpark. Roger Craig, you look at Robbie Thompson, who has over 130 strikeouts. Bill Fahey, you going to put it on again or not?
Isn't that interesting? Les Lancaster didn't know the correct count last night.
Thought the count was 3-0, threw the pitch 2-0. What Roger Craig tries to do is put Robbie Thompson in a situation where he thinks he's going to get a fastball. That's when he'll put the hit and run on.
Butler doesn't go, and it's fouled away. 2-2.
I've heard that happen before. Obviously, when pitchers will lose or forget what the count is, you play the game, it's going to happen to you somewhere along the line. I've never seen it happen with the kind of consequence that Lancaster had it last night. He thought the count was 3-0. The count, in fact, was 2-0. Bingo, a high nothing fastball, and won a ball game for the Giants.
2-2. Fastball got him looking on the outside corner.
A lot of strikeouts for the man in the number 2 position. Over 130 strikeouts on the season. He's been hitting in pretty good situation here. He's been ahead in a lot of the counts in the series. That a perfect pitch by Maddox right on the corner.
We talked about Maddox being a fine fielder and how Lacoste and Sutcliffe were hurt because they couldn't make a play. He should have made the play on the ball hit by Butler and didn't. Now let's see if it costs him, because he has to look at the extra man, Will Clark. Off speed, ball 1. Clark hit a bullet to center for a base hit in the first inning.
Clark he has that unusual setup with the weight all on his back foot, and then he strides in. When he goes to swinging, that right foot is only about 6 inches from the front plate. 4 to 6 inches. That right foot will go right toward the plate.
2-0.
He's one of the few young hitters that when he gets in the batting cage, people kind of stop what they're doing and take a look and see what his style is like, what he moves, where his hands go, where his hips go, where his feet go. Tremendous acceleration, bat speed when it gets to the hitting zone.
And he goes the other way, chasing it in the corner is Smith. It's against the fence. On his way to third is Butler, and they'll hold him. Dunston was the relay man, and was he ever ready to pull the trigger? But again, Maddox unable to handle that ball by Butler, and now he's in trouble with Kevin Mitchell coming up, and runners at second and third.
Good piece of hitting by Will Clark. Well, if that is not repetition in this series, I don't know what is. Another case of a 2-ball, no-strike count. You take a hitter like a Will Clark, and Mike Schmidt talked about it before the game. He said, you can take a mediocre hitter, you can let him hit with a count 2-0 and 3-1. You'll make him a good hitter. You take a good hitter, an outstanding hitter like Will Clark, and pitch 2-0, 3-1, you'll make him look like Ted Williams. Those hitters will tell you that they love to hit 2-0, 3-1, 3-2. They can just sit on a pitch, and that's exactly what Will Clark was doing there. Now that's the opposite field off the fence.
2 meetings, the Giant runners holding 1, and on the mound, Don Zimmer talking to Maddox, and no doubt the subject under discussion, how do you feel with first base open? Do you want to pitch to Mitchell, or do you want to put him on? You have Matt Williams on deck.
You remember in game number 1, Vinny went out and did exactly the same thing. He said, do you know what you want to do to Will Clark? He said, yeah, I know what I want to do. I want to throw him hard stuff in on his hands, get it on the inside part, edge of the plate in. He threw a fastball right down the middle. Clark hit it out of the ballpark. He took a little bit more time this time on the mound talking to Greg Maddox.
Big moment now. It is 2-1 Cubs in the third, 2 out, and the first answer is they're going to put him on. They will walk Kevin Mitchell, and in a minute, Matt Williams will be the batter. Second walk given up by Greg Maddox. He's allowed 3 hits. But again, it's a case of a good fielding pitcher who might very well have handled the comebacker by Butler. Didn't do it. Gives the Giants the extra opportunity, and the good ball club that they are, they're taking advantage of it. And now they have the bases loaded. Matt Williams coming up has 3 grand slams in his young career. Last year, he got everyone's attention. He hit a grand slam against Nolan Ryan. This year, he hit a grand slam against Cincinnati and a grand slam against the Dodgers, and it's standing room only on the base paths and in the stands. It's going to be hit to center. That's a base hit. 1 run is in. Clark is coming to score. Giants 3, Cubs 2, and the batter is Terry Kennedy. Foul ball. Foul ball. So Matt Williams looped one into center. It wasn't one of those line drives. That's why Sandberg came up with it. Sandberg not thinking that Clark might be an easy out. Remember, Clark's got that bad leg. And Sandberg threw over to Salazar. Had Sandberg turned and perhaps thrown to the plate, they might have gotten Clark. High fly ball to center. Back goes Walton. Away back. He's got it. What a catch. So Maddox couldn't handle the ball, but Jerome Walton does, and in between, the Giants score 2 and take the lead. Under great pressure, Jerome Walton going to the track, to the wall, timing his leap, and getting Maddox out of a desperate situation. Terry Kennedy hit that as hard as he could, and you can see his frustration.
He had 21 home runs one year in San Diego. 5 years ago, that'd have been a home run. What a difference a few seasons a toll on your body will take. He hit that as good as he could hit it.
1 ball and no strikes to Andre Dawson. Dawson flied to right in the first inning. Breaking ball, and that's hit to center, but he didn't get enough of it, and Butler is there. Normally, the ball doesn't carry that well here. It's usually cool, and the wind will cut it down or occasionally give it a push. But in this wonderful weather that we're enjoying, it was around 80 degrees at game time. That ball is carrying much better than normally. Here's Salazar, who homered in the second inning. Giants 3, Cubs 2, top of the 4th. And by this stage in the 4th game, you really get the feeling there isn't very much difference between these two teams.
Number-wise, they add up so well together, they may get it done a little bit differently, but a lot of similarities between these two ball clubs.
Remember, we were talking about Sandberg throwing to third. See how Clark is dragging that stiff right leg? If Sandberg had remembered that Clark was talking to Butler before the base hit, and if he was thinking that it's a stiff-legged Clark running from second, they might have had a play on him. Line drive, base hit for Salazar. Hit number 4 for Chicago. And the batter will be Sean Dunston.
I wonder if both clubs got enough bats to finish this series. Boy, they are doing some pounding.
There they are.
Another thing they're not doing, these hitters are not doing, and much to the chagrin of all the pitchers, is that when they are making mistakes, hitters on both clubs are hitting the ball hard. They're taking advantage of their situations when they have the pitcher behind the 8 ball, like when they're sitting 2-0, 3-1, and a pitcher does make a mistake, or makes a mistake when he's ahead. They are hitting the ball hard. Talked about a little bit last night how a lot of hitters at times will get themselves out. That seemed to be the way that Rick Sutcliffe was pitching the last couple innings, letting the hitters get themselves out at pitches that were not necessarily good hitting pitches.
Fastball, borderline pitch, and Dunston appeared to try to uppercut it, and he came up empty. 0-1. He had 9 home runs during the regular year.
One of the things Sean was able to do this year was to be a little bit more patient. That was a good pitch to hit. And Scotty Garrett's got a little pop on it and got it by him.
0-1. Salazar, the runner at first representing the tying run, had 1 stolen base and was caught 4 times during the year. Foul back. The other thing, Zimmer loses with this combination. He does not have any speed, not a good base runner in Salazar. Dunston, an overswinger, inclined to strike out. So Zimmer can't put on a patented play. And with 1 out, 0-2 the count. Giants 3, Cubs 2. Oh, 2 to Dunston. Fastball hit up the middle, base hit. An 0-2 fastball, and Salazar is going to go to third. So Dunston has to be grateful that Garrelts, with the count his way, no balls and 2 strikes, tries to get a fastball over at the knees.
You can see the location of the pitch down, but right in the middle of the plate. Salazar off for the hit, who does not bless with great speed, but is a good base runner. Here we'll pick up Salazar. He sees the ball. A good veteran player. He can help you do a lot of things. He may not have the blinding speed. He ran very well when he first came up to the big leagues, but he does know how to play the game. And he's an intelligent base runner.
Rick Rona is due up, and Rona is not going to come up. So Rona takes off the shin guards and sits down. And they will go to the bench.
Boy, the wheels are turning early, aren't they?
Marvell Wynn will come up and bat for Rick Rona with first and third and 1 out. The Giants leading the Cubs 3-2. Kelly Downs gets up in the Giant bullpen. So Marvell Wynn, who hit .243 during the regular year. He had 7 home runs, 39 RBIs, spending a good portion of the year in San Diego. As a left-handed batter, not only is Zimmer trying to get the tying run home, he's trying to stay out of the double play. So Wynn runs faster than Rona. He's a left-hand hitter. He has the additional 3 steps to first, and we'll see whether it works or not. Dunston at first. Will he put any heat? Well, he stole 19 bases during the regular year. Time. He jammed his right hand going back to the bag. That, of course, the throwing hand for the talented shortstop. A timeout.
You can see the dive back into the base. Look at, oh, there it is. I was wondering. It looked normal to me for a while.
Yeah.
What's he complaining about? Oh, thank you, Mr. Clark.
1 ball and no strikes to Marvell Wynn. Anytime you get a runner at third, it's a good idea to look at a pitcher's stuff and see just what he has done with a runner at third. Garrelts had 7 wild pitches during the regular year.
Those coming on the split-fingered fastball or the splitter. He does have an excellent curveball and has a good fastball. He's trying to go away from the splitter with the man on third.
Foul back in the count. 1 ball and 1 strike. Giants 3 runs, 4 hits. Cubs 2 runs, 5 hits. Top of the 4th, 1 away. Cubs at the corners. Salazar at third, Dunston at first.
Action in the Giant bullpen, action in the Cub bullpen. Pitcher up next.
And Maddox is out on deck.
And we're in the top of the 4th.
1-1. Foul back. So Garrelts now has the count his way, but he had it his way working on Dunston. Norm Sherry, Roger Craig, Bob Lillis, Don Zimmer, having made his move, now sits back to see if it pays off. 1-2 to Marvell Wynn. Got him, or did he foul it? He fouled it. No catch. The Wynn is still there.
The breaking ball, Wynn came right over the top of it. No, underneath it, went into the glove. The ball came back. Kennedy almost, that is the most difficult pitch to handle, the one that comes off the top of the glove. Top of the bat, excuse me, and goes up.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
You can see that little flick of the glove. That's the indication to Garrelts to go over to first. That's a set play, trying to hold that runner at first.
3-2 Giants, top of the fourth, 1 out. Foul back. Big at bat for Marvell Wynn with the pitch of Maddox on deck. Even though Greg is considered a pretty good hitter, it's Wynn's job to keep the inning alive and get the ball game even. Dunston at first, Salazar at third. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-2.
That was almost one of those wild pitches you were talking about, Vinny, right there.
Good block by Terry Kennedy.
The splitter, which will dramatically move at the end. I think it is not predictable, and it will really go straight down. Very tough for the catcher. He's got to keep those shoulders square, keep the ball out in front. Close the wicket.
2-2. Little pop fly, and it'll be Matt Williams coming to the mound. So Marvell Wynn with a big at bat pops it up.
Big at bat and a good pitch by Scotty Garrelts. It looked like Zim is going to let Maddox hit too.
Meeting at the mound, Robbie Thompson, Terry Kennedy, Will Clark, and the pitcher Scotty Garrelts. Now Norm Sherry is going out. I think Will Clark called Norm Sherry out to the mound. Maddox grounded to short in the second inning.
I think Will Clark was asking for a piece of information from the bench. Maybe will Maddox bunt? Look for a drag bunt? Sherry coming out to clarify everything with everybody. You can see Zim.
Bob Lillis, sitting alongside Roger Craig, has a computer, and he has fed all kinds of information in it. Information that normally is in a 3-ring binder. And they punch up the computer. And I'm sure they've done that right now to check Maddox as to what he does. Will he try to bunt? What the statistics say in the laws of probabilities. And I said to him, supposing you blow a battery on the computer. He said, I still have the binders. Fouled away. 0-1.
Maddox is no easy out. He hit over 200 during the regular season. He's a fine young athlete. You make a mistake to him, he'll hit the ball hard.
No balls, 1 strike. One and 1 to count. Boy, did Garrelts want that. You see the body English? He looked like a bowler trying to guide that ball down the middle of the runway. Watch this. Give it to me. Give it to me. 1-1. With the runner going, it's lifted foul behind the plate. Kennedy will not have a play. Kennedy is a big target to have behind the plate. He is 6'4" and about 220, 225. So it's like throwing to a backstop. And that has to give the Giant pitching staff a tremendous degree of confidence as far as throwing that splitter low.
And the amount of experience that he has behind the plate calling pitches.
1-2. Giants 3, Cubs 2, top of the fourth, 2 out. Dunston was going on the last pitch.
You can see Kennedy looking into the Giant dugout, into Roger Craig or one of the coaches, see if possibly they have picked up a sign where maybe the runner at first is going. Doesn't mean that they are necessarily calling the pitches, although they might be.
1-2 to Greg Maddux. There goes Dunston. Fastball hit right at Gureltz. He's out of the inning. And the big at-bat was to get Marvell Wynn. No run, 2 hits, 2 left. At the end of 3.5.
Thanks, Vinny. Between innings, Dwight Smith went into the clubhouse to have his hamstring taped. And if I might make a prediction, we got a guy in the Cubs dugout over here chomping at the bit. Mitch Williams is going to play a part in this game before it's over.
Pat Sheridan, a ground ball to Grace. Mark takes it to the bag, so 1 pitch and 1 away in the 4th inning. In case you weren't with us, in the 3rd inning, Dwight Smith walked, stole second, tried to score from second when Grace hit a ground ball to Uribe, who made a high throw to Will Clark. Clark whirled, fired to the plate, and Smith was out trying to beat Will's throw. And that's when he hurt his leg, we believe, and they had to have a tape. The batter now, Uribe, who grounded out in the 2nd inning. One's foul. It's still Giants 3, Cubs 2, bottom of the 4th inning. The Cubs last night left 5 men in the first 5 innings. They wound up leaving 8, and they came up a buck short, even though they out-hit the Giants. Joe Girardi behind the plate for Rick Rona. 1 out in the 4th. On the corner, 0-2. Uribe followed by Scott Gureltz.
I think Greg Maddux was so nervous in game number 1, he just never could establish a release point. His left side was so active and so strong, he seemed to be throwing the ball a little bit from 8 different kinds of places. One time he'd be on top, and the next time his elbow would be down, he'd be pulling left. It is so easy to do and such a fine thing to establish a release point. That point when the ball seems to be coming off of your fingers. Here you see the slow-mo, the release points. Yeah, the left shoulder goes down and the right elbow is above the right shoulder, and that release point, a good pitcher will have the same release point on every pitch, and he'll have it every time.
1-2. Line drive down the line, fair ball. Uribe on his way for 2. They'll hold him there.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was never let a number 8 hitter get a base hit off of you. Right in front of the pitcher, it gives the opposing manager something to do with the number 9 spot. The number 8 hitter is in that position because he normally is not a good offensive player. Uribe during the season hitting just .221. I had a veteran pitcher tell me, he says, you bury that number 8 place hitter.
Scott Gureltz trying to advance him, fouls it away. 0-1.
A lot of times a manager will have a sign for his hitters. Let's get him to third base any play you want to. The thing about getting Uribe to third in this situation, albeit it might be with 2 outs, remember Butler, the bunt potential with a runner at third. It puts a lot of pressure on Salazar at third base if Gureltz can get Uribe down there.
0-1 to Scott Gureltz. Uribe at second, 1 away. A bird dog play by Dunston. The throw hits the runner, and Uribe is going to go to third. It'll be an error charge to Greg Maddux.
It looked like they had a shot at him if he'd have made a little bit quicker throw, and certainly an accurate throw. John Dunston tried to do a good decoy job. The ball just did not stay clear enough or did not bounce far enough into the outfield for Jerome Walton to get there. Uribe really didn't know where the ball was at first, and you could see Dunston trying to decoy him. The Cubs now have to play in.
We were talking before about Scotty Gureltz, and they're checking no swing in the count 1-1. So there is now pressure on Greg Maddux. Runner at third, 1 away. Check swing. No, it never touched the bat. And here comes the run.
Boy, if you're sitting in the Chicago Cub dugout and you're the manager or the pitching coach, you really feel like you've just seen a case of highway robbery. Your number 8 hitter hitting the double and scoring without even getting an out.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Maddox had committed 5 wild pitches during the year. Zimmer and his pitching coach Dick Pohl beside themselves now as the Giants take a 4-2 lead. And Pohl going to the phone. Steve Wilson was up earlier, and he'll probably want Wilson to get up again. And now he walks Gurriel. That's about as bad an inning as a 19-game winner could ever have. Give up a double to the number 8 hitter. Try to pick him off and advance him to third. Wild pitch a run over while working to the opposite pitcher and then walk him.
I think perfectly put. I can't think of anything else that might have gone wrong. The only thing that worse that could have been wrong, and the first hitter, Pat Sheridan, hit a ground ball to Grace, and Grace been playing deep, and you don't cover first base.
That's about it. Steve Wilson up again. And now here is Butler.
They're buying time. I think Zim and Dick Pohl are really upset, and I don't blame them. I mean, this is the second trip. Salazar made the first trip over there, and now the catcher goes out.
For young Greg Maddux, 23 years old, a 19-game winner this year. One of the big reasons why the Cubs are here. But this has been a thoroughly forgettable league championship series as far as he's concerned. And here comes Zimmer, and we'll see if he's bringing a hook with him. You have the left-hand hitting Brett Butler on deck with 1 out, and Steve Wilson in the pen. So Maddux, who had only 4 innings in the first game and gave up 8 runs, is on the edge of coming out in the 4th inning tonight. And he's gone. It's official. Wilson will be called in to pitch to Brett Butler. 4-2 San Francisco.
Brett Butler, a left-hander, before Mitchell's home run, he had walked Will Clark. Much more aggressive tonight.
On the corner for a strike. 0-1. Of course, in all honesty, you would be more aggressive against Brett Butler than you would be against Kevin Mitchell. Butler with 4 home runs, Mitchell with 300,000.
The mistake that he made was pitching so carefully to the left-hander Will Clark with Mitchell behind him. I mean, he had a left-hander coming in to see the left-hander. That's the guy you got to get out. You have to get out Will Clark if you're left-handed and not have to pitch to Kevin Mitchell.
Robbie Thompson has walked and struck out, scored a run in the first inning. Fastball popped in the air back of first in foul ground. Grace trying to get under it and makes a swipe at it and catches it. What a fine play by Mark Grace. Tough to see the ball against that light sky. He was running out of territory, took one look at the VIP seats and made the play. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Faces in the crowd here at Candlestick. Gary Cole, a midnight caller. And right nearby, there's George Wendt of Cheers. 4-2 Giants. We go to the 5th inning. And it'll be Jerome Walden, Ryne Sandberg, and then Dwight Smith. So the Cubs got a run in the first inning, but the Giants got it back. Cubs got a run in the second. The Giants came up with 2 in the third and a big gift in the 4th and lead 4-2. Ball 1. Jerome Walden popped up, fly deep to left. Cubs have lost the momentum, so Gurriel's job is to keep it that way. And Walden trying to start it up, and he immediately singles. That's a big at-bat for him. So Walden, a line drive single to center, and that'll bring up Ryne Sandberg.
A lot of things that are impressive in this series. The number 3 and 4 and 5 hitters for both clubs. with the exception of Dawson, who has been struggling. But really, the number 1 and 2 guys on both teams, Walton and Sandberg, and on the other side of the coin, Butler and Robbie Thompson, they're having terrific series themselves. Tough to find from an offensive standpoint somebody who's not having a decent series.
Ryne Sandberg, a fly ball double that was lost by Kevin Mitchell, and then struck out in the 3rd inning on all breaking balls. And we'll see what they do. First, worrying about Walden. Walden stole 24 out of 31. Chuck Cottier taking a look in at his skipper. And Sandberg waiting, hitting .462. And starts him breaking ball, and you could see Sandberg kind of arch his back. He quit on the pitch in the count 0-1.
He doesn't like it at all.
No.
Not at all.
I don't think I've ever seen him act the way he's acting on one breaking ball after another.
He just may not pick up the rotation. Obviously, you can see that left leg give. You can see him arch his back.
0-1. And remember, this is a 6-time All-Star, a fellow who has hit at least once safely in every league championship game, and he really had to bail out and quit on that curveball.
Every curveball he's thrown has been right in the right spot, too, right down and away in the blown away corner.
He pops it up.
He hung that one and missed it.
And it'll be Uribe right there. I wonder if we have that hanging curve, because not every hanging curve is hit out of the ballpark. There are some that hang and are outs, and here's one.
You take a look at it. This is the one that a hitter will go back to the dugout and say, oh, would I like to have this one back. Here you can see the ball out of Garrelt's hands. Remember the other one down by Kennedy's right shin guard. That'll show you what a difference in that pitch is. Oh, Ryne Sandberg would say, I'd like to have just a couple of dozen of those.
So Dwight Smith at the plate. Remember, he's had his leg taped. Single to right and walk. Walden at first, one away. Clark on the bag, and Robbie Thompson shading way off to his right. On the outside corner for a strike. 0-1. Smith last night went the other way 3 times. He went to left field, once a base hit. Prior to that, he had a double to right and a couple of shots in game 1 at Matt Williams. So you get the idea that he uses the ballpark. He will go after it wherever you pitch him. He's not necessarily a pull hitter. And then in the 1st inning, he got a ball he could turn on and rifled a single to right field.
Well, how many times can you go to your minor leagues and find 2 youngsters, one to come up and hit and lead off and 1/3?
He goes the other way, but Mitchell is there to pick it off. 2 down, and the batter will be Mark Grace. And every time Grace comes up against Scott Garrelts, you have yourself a major confrontation, and Terry Kennedy is going out to the mound to talk to Garrelts.
There's the scouting report. Likes to inside out the ball. That means get the pitch on the inside part of the plate and take it to left field and try to pound him in on his hands. He doesn't strike out much. A great ratio of almost 90 base on balls and just 42 strikeouts. So he's going to make contact. The Giants have been trying to make him put it into play to left field.
And he promptly bangs it into right center for a base hit. It gets by Sheridan. And Walden is around third. He will score. Grace is on his way to third. And Robbie Thompson will run it back to the infield. Pat Sheridan tried to backhand it on the dead run and came up with a glove full of empty. And the Cubs now are the tying run 90 feet away. It'll be a triple.
One of the things you have to do from a pitching standpoint is pitch the way that your defense is set up. Here they throw the breaking ball, a pitch that Grace can pull. Butler in center field all the way around in left center. That ball really dead in the alley. Sheridan tried to cut it off, knowing that Smith has excellent speed. But that's a case of the pitcher really crossing the defense up.
Andre Dawson now asked to pick up the tying run. Kelly Downs is up again in the Giant bullpen. Mark Grace against Garrelts is 11 for 16 as he just triples. And there's a drive into right center, and the ball game is all tied up. That's going to go to the fence, and the Hawk goes flying into second base in a 4-4 tie. So Jerome Walden singled, and 2 outs later, Grace triples and Dawson doubles.
Dawson got a pitch up and out over the plate last night against Lacoste and hit it just about the same spot. Here Garrelts leaves the pitch up in the middle of the plate. Dawson just drives it in. You know who's the happiest person in the ballpark? Greg Maddux, sitting in that duck in the clubhouse inside and knowing he's off the hook. Mentally, it's just a big relief. Certainly didn't want to go back to Chicago, knowing he's 0-2. He is dead off the hook.
So the tying run brought in by Mark Grace on the double by Andre Dawson. And here is Luis Salazar. He has a home run and a single as he tries to put the Cubs out in front again. 4-4 in the 5th. Ball 1. Mark Grace, by hitting that triple, has 8 RBIs in the series and has hit for the cycle in the series, and Roger Craig might have had enough. Kelly Downs down in the bullpen, and Garrelts struggling here in the 5th inning. And that will be it. So Scott Garrelts, who was the winning pitcher in game 1, can't win tonight and could lose because he leaves even with a possible winning run. His responsibility at second base.
To be enjoyed responsibly. Remember, know when to say when. And by the First Brands Corporation, makers of Prestone Advanced Formula Antifreeze.
Kelly Downs picking up a 1-ball no-strike count, misses with his first pitch. So the count now 2 balls and no strikes to Luis Salazar. Dawson at second, 2 out. 4-4 tie in the 5th. Fastball, and it's in there. Show you what the Cubs had to do. They had to chase Scott Garrelts, the leading earned run average leader in the National League. He was 10-2 at Candlestick Park this year. His earned run average here was 1.5. Change, and he got it on the outside corner. 2-2.
Boy, he gave that away, didn't he?
Really?
You started calling that before it was halfway to the plate. The old hitter and you came out.
The old hitter, right.
Right on the perfect spot. You can see the split finger, and that one an off-speed splitter. But boy, perfect spot. He really slowed his arm down on that one.
2-2. Fastball hit down the right field line, foul and out of play. The deuce is wild on Luis Salazar. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 in, and a runner at second in a 4-4 tie. Garrelts is still the pitcher of record, but only to either lose or have nothing to do with it. It's up to Downs. Breaking ball fouled away. That was a pretty good piece of hitting because that pitch really ran away from Salazar. And with 2 strikes, he just went down after it. Fouled it away.
Good experience to stay alive. He hits it foul. Talked about Salazar, a veteran who knows how to play the game of baseball. Now, that is a nasty pitch. That is a mark of a good hitter who can foul it off and wait for a pitch that he can handle.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Sidearm snake that's hit to the right side to Robbie Thompson, and that's the out in the inning. But the Cubs get off the floor. Garrelts is off the hook, and we have a 4-4 tie. Bottom of the 5th inning in a 4-4 tie. Will Clark, Kevin Mitchell, and Matt Williams, the heart of the Giant lineup, and Steve Wilson ready to go. Clark has singled and doubled and goes to left field. It's slicing, and it's going to land up in front of a sore-legged Dwight Smith, who can't make the play, and Clark is into second. And Smith was limping noticeably going after that ball. They need his bat, but that bad leg, we believe he hurt it in the third inning, is really going to hurt the Cubs defensively.
Park now 3 for 3 in the ball game. Definitely hurt by Smith's sore leg. He was playing extremely deep. Now remember, Clark's got a bad leg at second base, and it looks from a hitting standpoint, he is simply trying to hit the ball to left field.
A check swing and a shallow fly ball, and Smith will catch it, bad leg or no. Kevin Mitchell checking his swing. It's a fly ball to Smith. One down.
Not a very good at bat for Kevin Mitchell. He's sitting against a left-hander. First pitch, you really got to let it go. You can't check swing and make it out on that if you're a hitter like Kevin Mitchell. Certainly it's going to happen.
Salazar is asking Dwight Smith, can you play? I told you he has really been a one-legged man out there this inning. And Salazar is now gesturing to the dugout as if to say, I don't think he can play out there in left field. Zimmer's hollering Mac. And I think Dwight Smith is going to come out. They are calling him in. He doesn't want to come in. But after watching him go after that ball that Will Clark hit, I'm surprised they even allowed him to stay out there when Mitchell came out. So Lloyd McClendon will take over for him. And remember, Marvell Wynn has already been used as a pinch hitter. So they lose a big bat as Dwight Smith hurt his leg in the third inning trying to score from second on a ground ball and has to come out. There you can see Salazar saying, are you okay? And then finally, after doing that, he gestured to the dugout. He can't play.
You want to get Smith out of there so you don't lose him for any longer than just a half a game.
So Dwight Smith heading for the pitch for a pair. We have a moment, so we'll bring you up to date on some scores. Okay, you're up to date with the NFL. Now back to the League Championship Series. Will Clark at second, one out in the fifth inning in a 4-4 tie. Matt Williams the batter. And they are wig-wagging to McClendon to play Williams over more towards the foul line and deeper. So Dwight Smith gone out with that bad hamstring. Scott Sanderson throwing in the Cub bullpen. Matt Williams grounded out and singled. His single with the bases loaded drove in two and put the Giants in front in the third inning. Fouled away, 0-1. With Dwight Smith hurt, you realize that suddenly Zimmer cannot get into any extended card playing with Roger Craig. He started Rona and he hit Wynn for Rona. Then Girardi took over behind the plate. So Wynn is gone. Now Dwight Smith is gone. McClendon, who is basically a third-string catcher and finished up last night's game, is in left field. And that could hurt as the game progresses. 0-1 to count to Matt Williams. In there. Are you a little surprised that they're pitching to Williams? You have the left-hand hitting Terry Kennedy and Pat Sheridan due up next.
We've seen a lot of unusual moves in this entire series. We've seen a couple of intentional base on balls in the first inning of one of the games. We've seen both managers sometimes just simply managing by hunches.
0-2. inside to crowd him. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Now you can see Girardi gesturing that he's going to go over the signs again. He gave him that big circular motion. Clark at second, but he's not 100%. He's got a sore leg. Trying to keep that ball inside. Doesn't want Matt Williams to extend the arms where all that power comes from.
Don't know if both those pitches are simply set-up pitches, and he might want to get them away with an off-speed pitch away. Williams would be looking for middle in here. A fastball. He's a fastball hitter. He'll be looking fastball.
He got it and fouled it away. Gary Kennedy on deck. 4-4 tie. Cubs 4 runs, 8 hits. Giants 4 runs, 6 hits. And like last night, a seesaw ball game. 2-2. And Wilson wants Girardi to go over the signs again. On the hands, foul back. He challenged him. Came right in after him, and Williams fouled it off.
Williams, the last couple of months of the season, is more productive than either Mitchell or Clark. Big, strong right-handed hitter. You can see how he'd like to extend his arms. Chicago basically trying to pitch him hard stuff in on his hands. Hard in, soft away.
2-2. Clark at second, representing a tie-breaking run. Way inside. Boy, he is staying right on top of him, all with hard stuff. And the count 3-2.
One thing that Dick Pohl has talked about is not getting enough of those pitches. That ball is not really that far inside. It's running in on him. Now Williams jumps to get away from it, but they have not established hard in off of the plate in this entire series. Boy, if you want to control the outside part of the plate, you got to show another hitter that you will pop him in off the plate inside.
3-2. And it's hit foul. It was off speed. He took a lot off that pitch. And Matt Williams was so far out in front, he cued the ball into the stands off third base. So after brute strength, suddenly finesse.
He struck me out.
I tell you what.
3-2. I'm looking fastball away.
What a
good pitch by Wilson.
I should say so.
You know, for a young pitcher to have that much confidence in that pitch, 3-2. But with first base open, a left-hander on base. If you miss, so what? You go to first base.
Fastball fouled away.
Well, that's exactly what he's doing. Soft away and hard in. It's really a perfect situation from a pitching standpoint where you're really not at a disadvantage if you use first base to your advantage. Runner at second. Nobody at first. Kennedy on the on-deck circle. A good double play man. Remember, Kennedy does not run well. So this is the one situation we talked about how counts have turned in hitters' favors throughout the series. Yet with the open base, the count going to 3-2, Wilson is really in a situation where he can throw any pitch that he wants because he's not really hurt with a base on balls.
This is his 10th pitch to Matt Williams. 3-2. Ground ball foul. Boy, did he turn on that fastball. Woof. Still 3-2.
One thing that every young catcher and every young pitcher should come to realize is where does a hitter make contact with your fastball. Now look where the bat head is on this fastball. Way out front. That's not a changeup that he hit that there. Remember the changeup that he was way out front, that he hit high, left, and foul? Williams is hitting the fastball out in front of the hitting zone.
3-2. This is the 11th pitch. Fouled away. Do you remember the other night in Chicago? You had that magnificent at-bat where Mark Grace was up there for 12 pitches. Now Matt Williams is up there for his 12th pitch. with Will Clark at second, 1 out in the 5th in a 4-4 tie. Steve Wilson came to the Cubs from the Texas Rangers. And again, he wants Girardi to go over the sign.
This is a great at-bat. A great at-bat.
3-2. Line down the left field line in the corner. Gone. Home run. They are cheering in San Francisco, but you know what they're doing in Chicago. They're saying, why did he pitch to him? With 1 out, a runner at second, and Terry Kennedy, a double play threat coming up, they challenged Williams and paid for it. It is 6-4 San Francisco.
2 pitches before in the entire sequence, he proved that he could get the bat head out on the fastball, and that's exactly what he hit.
Side armor takes care of Kennedy, but that's much too late. That's amazing. That is really amazing.
I'm amazed at the pitch.
I'm amazed that he pitched to him. Now here comes Pat Sheridan, and the horse is way down the road. Ball 1. 1-0 to Sheridan, who has grounded out twice. Giants 6. They have matched the Cubs 2 here in the 5th inning. Another strike. When the Cubs come up in the 6th, they have Dunston, Girardi, and Wilson spot. Two and 1. I remember listening to a couple of scouts from other teams in the National League talking about Matt Williams. And one of them said something we should all remember. He said, I'm afraid he's going to be as good as I think he can be. Matt Williams. 2-2. Little foul out of play.
Talking about scouts, Ron Schuler, the Oakland A's scout, right down below us. Congratulations to the Oakland A's, who were winners today. Tony La Russa has Schuler working already, has been here through this series watching these 2 clubs play. He puts the scouting reports together for Tony and his coaching staff. One of the things that Tony talked about, there's Matt Williams, a happy young home run he had.
3-2 the count to Pat Sheridan. It's been a wild game. Each side scored a run in the 1st. Cubs got a run in the 2nd. Giants with 2 in the 3rd took the lead. Added to it in the 4th to lead 4-2. Cubs tied it. Giants have come back to take the lead. A fly ball to left center. Walton is there to make the catch, but it comes up 2 outs too late. Matt Williams had his moment, and now is Matt Williams.
This is supervision. You can see the sequence of pitches from Steve Wilson. The first pitch, a fastball inside for a strike, fastball away for a strike. The pitches on the right side part of the plate from then on generally Off-speed pitches. Fastballs inside. Williams would be on the left side of your screen. Remember how he was popping him on the inside? Look how everything is pretty much on the corner. Whole sequence of pitches, and all of a sudden, bingo, right in the middle of the plate. Fastball right down Broadway, and a 2-run home run.
There's a looper over the head of Clark and lands just fair. Dunston holding at first, and a good save by Robbie Thompson. And so the Cubs try to come back. And one thing we have learned tonight, we know why the Giants have the best home record. And we also know why the Cubs have the best road record. Neither one will back off. And we still have a long way to go.
What a play by Robbie Thompson. You see him hustling on that ball? There's Matt Williams. A great play, great hustle on the ball hit by Dunston to prevent him from going to second. Great play by Thompson.
Time called, and there's a few words. Sean Dunston and Will Clark. That's the first time we've had any semblance of disagreement between the two teams. After all, with Roger Craig and Don Zimmer so close, it appeared to have spread to the teams. But now suddenly something was said, and Dunston was furious. Zimmer saying, "What happened? Tell me."
It probably stems from remember the play at second base when Clark went into second? Sandberg turned around and told the umpire, look at Clark. He was pushing up in the air, interfering at second base. That might have been what it's about. There's two very competitive individuals. They'll be left alone over there, too, if they can clean house.
Dunston is furious. Will Clark trying to quiet him down earlier in the game, and it had to be unintentional. Remember, Will Clark unintentionally stepped on Dunston's hand. Now, let's see. I wonder if we have Dunston going down the line at the bag. I know we were watching that fine play by Robbie Thompson, but you wonder if something happened as Dunston was approaching the bag. Jose Martinez trying to calm Dunston down, but he is furious.
He's arguing with everybody. He's arguing with the umpire, his own coach, arguing. Look at Clark. Clark is still in there. And Zim trying to make amends here. You don't want to lose your shortstop.
You know, things were so nice between these teams when the Giants were at Wrigley Field. Don Zimmer's wife, Sue, passed out orange and black corsages to all of the Giant players' wives. I mean, this really was the friendship games. And suddenly there, a little emotion, and apparently it's by the board.
Maybe a misunderstanding about something. They became friends again all of a sudden. Well, you don't know if it's the end of it, though. You can see the vein in Clark's neck popping out.
This was when Clark inadvertently stepped on Dunston's hand, but I'm sure this has nothing to do with it.
Totally unintentional.
Yeah.
Just an accident.
I'm just wondering if maybe they bumped at the bag as all eyes were riveted on Robbie Thompson making that smothering save. All right, the tying run is at the plate in Joe Girardi. Giants 6, Cubs 4. Curtis Wilkerson is on deck to hit for Steve Wilson. Girardi got into the game because Wynn batted for Rick Rona. And this will be Girardi's first at bat. 6-4 Giants, top of the 6th. There's nothing to be learned or gained from that because we were trying to get something, whether they had bumped each other. But apparently it was just a few words said, one to the other.
A good job by Jose Martinez, the coach at first, to jump in there and save his shortstop. Doesn't want him thrown out of the game. Martinez jumped right in front of Dunston, said, let's cool it. Back off here.
6 runs, 7 hits for the Giants, 4 runs, 9 hits for the Cubs. And he goes on a hit-and-run ground ball to Uribe, who goes to Clark for the out. So Dunston at second with one away, and Curtis Wilkerson coming up. Here's Dunston. Watch now. Round first. Stops. Sees Thompson smother. Goes back to the bag. Clark wasn't anywhere near him. The old story, you had to be there. Curtis Wilkerson, a switch hitter, and the second pinch hitter used by Don Zimmer. He has one left-hand hitter available, and that's a switch hitter, Mitch Webster. 1 ball and no strikes to Curtis. Jeff Brandley begins to warm up back at Downs in the Giant bullpen. Popped in the air back a third, and that's where Mitchell hanging out. 2 down. The batter will be the leadoff man, Jerome Walden. There'll be a meeting at the mound about Walden. Give us a chance. You ever heard of this? I was reading about Matt Williams when he was at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. What his coaches did. They took a ping pong paddle, cut the handle off, put 5 plastic strings on the back of the paddle. Williams would then put his fingers in those strings so that the paddle became his glove, and he was fielding ground balls with a ping pong paddle. The idea being to give you soft hands to make you have some rhythm fielding ground balls. You ever heard of that?
Never heard of that. That's a new one for me.
Neither had I. And that didn't come up. It's going to be a base hit. That ball landed like a poached egg in front of Kelly Downs and just splattered. And it's an infield single for Jerome Walden.
Both of yesterday's starting pitchers were commenting on the bunt place that they had to field around the mound, that how everything was so soft, not necessarily wet, but soft. This is a very high and thick infield grass in San Francisco, very thick in the outfield as well. There was no life in the ball. Remember yesterday, Lacoste did not field the bunt play with runners at first and second. He would have had Salazar easily, but the ball just never came up.
Now you have Ryne Sandberg with the tying runs aboard. And you figured, and he got it. Breaking ball. Sandberg, pop fly double, lost by Mitchell in the first inning. Struck out and popped up. 1 for 3. So you have Dunston at third, Walton at first. So speed at the corners with 2 out. Ball 2, 2-0.
Sandberg is not going to swing at that breaking ball unless he has to. And to make Kelly Downs prove that he can throw it for a strike. He hasn't been able to get it over to him yet.
Gave him 2 sliders for the moment, and the count 2-0. And now Kennedy out to talk to him.
Might be a little discussion of what kind of pitch we're going to throw here. Kennedy may have thrown down another slider. He may have gone out and said, listen, slider came from the bench. That's what you're going to throw. Could have said, listen, throw the best pitch you want, but don't aim it. Let it go. We're going to get hurt. Let's get hurt on the outside half of the plate.
2 balls, no strikes. And that's going to be hit into left field, falling in a hurry, and Mitchell makes a rolling catch. First base by going to Mike Schmidt, who is right near the Chicago Cub dugout. Schmitty?
Vinny, it was not a real big deal. You know, in the heat of battle, sometimes when you're doing as well as Will Clark has been and the Cubs are battling, you kind of should keep your mouth shut. I think Will said, in fact, I know Will said to Sean, come on, swing the bat. And Sean construed that as a cutting comment and jumped on Will real quick. I don't think Will meant anything by it, but There's so much tension down here that things like that can get out of hand, and that's exactly what happened. I don't think it was any more than that.
Okay. Good report. And we go to the bottom of the 6th. Giants 6, Cubs 4, and Jose Uribe will face Scott Sanderson. Sanderson, an 11-game winner during the regular year. Trying to keep the Giants quiet here. 1-0. High pop fly on the left side. It's Salazar calling. 1 down. Remember tomorrow with Mike Bilecki and Rick Russell, the probable pitchers, Game 5 of the National League Championship Series. It remains to be seen tonight whether the Cubs will be battling to stay afloat tomorrow. So why not join us right here at Candlestick, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh, and 1 to Kelly down. Big over the top on a fly ball to right, but Dawson was hanging out near the line. 2 down. Here's Mike Bilecki. Interestingly enough, Bilecki and Russell, teammates in Hawaii, teammates in the Pirate organization, both men feeling that they were somewhat thrown aside, and they will go head-to-head for the 2nd time tomorrow. But if the Cubs lose tonight, Bilecki will really be shouldering a load to pitch here at Candlestick to try to keep his club alive. 6-4 Giants, 6th inning. Here's Butler. Out away.
One of the amazing things about this series so far, we still have not seen Mitch Williams. Didn't see him last night. Whether Zim was going to bring him in to face Will Clark, probably what he was going to do, but he had made 70 some odd appearances and been brought into ball games in the 7th inning 5 times. It would not have been unusual for him. There's a bunt attempt.
That's going to wind up in the stands, and the count remains 0-2. Scott Sanderson, 33-year-old, had back surgery in February of '88. So he has bounced back nicely to win 11 games this year. After 20 straight starts, he finally went to the bullpen in August. First came up with Montreal in '78. 0-2. 4-1. Butler, as you can see, does well against Sanderson. 1-2. Off speed, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Scott Sanderson was one of the reasons Don Zimmer went to the 4-man rotation during the middle of the season. Sanderson was pitching so badly. It was part of the 5-man rotation, and then just got to the point where he just couldn't get anybody out, couldn't get the club to the 4th and 5th inning, and he was ruining Zim's bullpen.
Fastball on the hands, popped up behind the plate. Joe Girardi is there. So the Giants go quietly in the 6th, and at the end of 6, Giants 6, Cubs 4. We'll be back after these messages from your local.
Game 4 of the National League Championship Series is brought to you by the good time, great taste of McDonald's, by Federal Express, the best way to ship it over there, and by Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper, and Dr. Pepper bottlers throughout the USA.
We go to the 7th inning at Candlestick. Lloyd McClendon will start it off. Remember, he had to take over in left field for Dwight Smith, who had to come out because of the bad leg. So McClendon, Grace, and Dawson against Kelly down. Hard slider away. Ball 2, 2-0. Greg Maddux has started. Had his ice, put his jacket on, and came back to join his mates in the Cub dugout. Ball 3, 3-0.
Sometimes when you got potential scuffle on the field, those that have retired to the clubhouse early will get back. He's either back for that reason, or certainly this importance of this NLCS, wants to be on the bench with his teammates. But that fight might have had something to do with it.
3-1, and McClendon trying to get aboard because Mark Grace represents the potential tying run on deck. And then you get Dawson. So this is a big inning.
There we were, 3-1 again, and it looked like a pitch out of the strike zone. Might have gone for ball 4.
Full count to McClendon, opening up matters in the 7th against Kelly Downs. And he walked him, and now Grace, Dawson, and Salazar come up. Downs' first walk, and it's only the second walk given to the Cubs tonight. The other one went to Dwight Smith in the 3rd inning. The Cubs have left 7 men in 6 innings. In fact, they failed to leave a man only in the 2nd inning when Salazar led off with a home run. They left 5 in the last 3 innings, and Jeff Brantley is throwing in the Giant pen. Ball 1, and for the 3rd inning in a row, the leadoff man has gotten aboard. Walton in the 5th, Dunston in the 6th, McClendon here in the 7th. Foul back. 1-1 to Mark Grace. Mark Grace hitting .692. He is 10 for 15. Excuse me, Mark Grace is 9 for 13, and Will Clark is 10 for 15. One ball, one strike. Right side of the infield wide open. Thompson shifting to his right, and Clark on the bag holding McClendon. Hit in the air the other way. Mitchell is there with Butler, and it's Mitchell. So Mark Grace, who had a scoring fly ball and a triple, flies to left.
Boy, he looks like he's saying he wanted it back, too. Remember last time up, he got the breaking ball and crossed up the defense, hit the triple into right center. That time, nothing but hard stuff from Kelly Downs away. The expression on Grace's face seems to say that, boy, I'd like to have that back. You know, that hanging curveball that Ryan Sandberg had earlier in the game, popped it up. Seems to be the same thing Grace is saying.
Andre Dawson, the batter, doubled to drive in a run in the 5th inning. Boy, that pitch just ran away on him. You were talking before about Terry Kennedy hitting that long fly ball to center, saying 5 years ago that would have been out. Last night in the 8th inning, Dawson hit a curveball that Mitchell caught, and remember, Grace was doubled up going into second base. 2 years ago, Dawson would have hit that curveball up into the bleachers. Change hit hard to Williams. They get 1 in the dirt to Clark. They get 2. Bottom of the 7th inning, Giants 6, Cubs 4. Mitch Williams is up in the bullpen, but he's been up before. We're not sure if he's just working off nervous energy or whatever. Sanderson's spot is due up 4th when the Cubs hit in the 8th inning. Last night's crowd was the largest crowd ever to see a baseball game at Candlestick Park. Tonight's crowd is even larger. The paid attendance, 62,078. That means by winning last night, the Giants increased their attendance by 13. Here's Robbie Thompson. Ball 1. He had Salazar on the move by showing bunt. 1-0.
This is like double the crowd at Wrigley Field. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Fastball popped foul and out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike. Thompson, Clark, and Mitchell in the 7th, with the Giants leading the Cubs 6-4.
Talked about Scotty Sanderson got into a rut in the middle of the season. Was not pitching well, could not get his ball club to the 4th and 5th inning, and Zim had to take him out of the starting rotation. Gave up 16 home runs and just under 150 innings pitched. likes to pitch a fastball up at the top of the strike zone, and he got to midsummer when the winds were blowing out in Wrigley Field, and those fly balls that had been knocked down by the incoming winds at Wrigley all of a sudden were carrying to the seats.
2-1. Fastball line to left, base hit. Kicked for a moment by McClendon, but he gets it back into Sandberg. And now here comes Clark, followed by Mitchell.
Six of the 8 home runs that the Giants have hit this year have come with runners on. Excuse me, in this series. 6 of the 8. Somebody's been on base. They have hurt you with a multiple run home run.
Clark bidding for a perfect night. He has 2 doubles and a single. Ball 1. Clark singled to get Thompson to third in the first inning. Doubled to get Butler to third in the third. And then doubled to lead off the 5th inning. And that's when Steve Wilson pitched to Matt Williams, who hit the 2-run home run, and it's 6-4 Giants.
Clark has not tried to pull the ball all night. He's gone up the middle and the left field every time.
2-0.
With Thompson on first, the big hole between Grace and Sandberg. He might try to turn on something that's from middle half in, but he seems to have been looking away, under the impression that the Cubs are now pitch him away, push him away, pitch him away, play him away. Excuse me. He's talking to getting another set of size than Bill Fahey. That's what he's motioning at. He's going to go down and check for sure.
Remember, his leg is sore. He has not run well at all. Thompson, a good base runner at first, and they count 2 balls and no strikes. And Will still double checking with Fahey. He has been in 11 league championship games, and he has hit safely in 10 of the 11. Like Mark Grace, 2 fine players have arrived upon the scene. Fouled away. Earlier this year, and it was a pretty good description, Brett Butler was asked about Kevin Mitchell and Will Clark, and he said, how did you describe them? And Butler said, Mitchell is a good player having a great year. Clark is a great player on his way to the Hall of Fame.
Had a big cut at the 2-0 pitch. Sanderson fell behind him. Clark up at 2 balls and a strike.
Off speed, got it in there.
That was nasty.
Oh.
That was nasty.
That took a little while to get up there.
Think about Scotty's high fastball up in the strike zone. He's a big, tall man, and he gets a lot of leverage on that breaking ball. Ooh, that was nasty.
6-5. Kind of threw a soap bubble up to the plate, and the count 2-2. Bottom of the 7th, 6-4 Giants. Thompson a short lead at first, trying to increase it. Thompson's gone. On the hands, popped up. They tried a decoy. Grace left the bag for the moment, but Thompson's back anyway. So Clark is jammed and pops it up. Thompson holding with 1 out, and Kevin Mitchell a batter.
2 great pitches by Scotty Sanderson in a row. Fell behind, and then a 2-1 pitch, a great curveball. And remember the scouting reports we've been putting up. One of the parts of that scouting report says hard stuff right on the hands, and that's right where the pitch is. You got to think that they're talking about something that was put on, Vinny, with a leg, whether hit and run, and I don't know if I can hit. Maybe that's what Will Clark is. Excuse me, don't know whether I can run. Maybe that's what Clark is saying to him. There we're talking about the scouting report. You got to pop him on the inside.
Here's Mitchell. Fastball at the knuckles. Mitchell hit into a force play, was walked intentionally and flied to left. Interesting, when they walked Mitchell intentionally to pitch to Williams, there were runners at second and third. Big slow curveball, and he got that rainbow in there. 1-1.
I know a lot of people in 20 years that I played would have a lot of trouble hitting that one. That one and the one he threw to Clark, that's what you call yellow hammers. You can't hit those.
1 ball, 1 strike. Fastball, and the count 1-2.
After that big curveball, Kevin Mitchell saw a fastball. He almost came off the ground to swing at it. He said, if I see a fastball, I'm going for it. I'm not going to sit here and try and hit that curveball.
Oh, to check and see if he didn't break his shoelaces.
Here's Mitchell going up that last pitch. That's up and down in the strike zone, but it was straight. It filled one requirement. It was straight.
1-2 to Kevin. Incredible numbers. He had 11 more home runs than anybody else, and he hit his 30th by the All-Star break. That's pretty dominant. Most dominating home run stat that I can remember, the year that Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs, he alone hit more home runs than any other team in the American League that year, except the Yankees, and he was a member there. And he hit more home runs than all of the other Yankees. Now that's dominating a league, isn't it?
That's dominating the league, and that's one of the things that dramatically changed the game of baseball. 1927.
2-2 to Kevin Mitchell. Off-speed curve hit to Sandberg. He waits for the hop. Plenty of time. The difference in the game is in the 5th inning, when Matt Williams came up with a runner at second and 1 out, with the left-hand hitters Kennedy and Sheridan behind him, and Wilson 3-2, and Williams on the 12th pitch hit a home run. Williams hitting .333 in the series. Grounded out. Didn't hit the ball very hard, but he got a base hit with the bases loaded for 2 RBIs in the 3rd inning. So all Matt has done, driven in 4 of the 6 Giant runs tonight. When the Cubs bat in the 8th, they have Salazar, Dunston, and Girardi. Big slow curveball, and he throws it for a strike every time.
My knee buckled up here.
Gonna bail on that?
Oh, I did. My knee buckled up here.
0-1 to Matt. Remember all those fastballs that Steve Wilson kept coming in on him, and then he got one out over the plate. Fastball. 0-2. Steve Wilson, no doubt sitting there thinking about that confrontation. 11 pitches, and then the 12th one, Williams hit out to give the Giants the 6-4 lead.
Giants have gotten great production out of that 3, 4, 5 slot in their lineup. 21 RBIs in the 4 games. They've done some kind of pounding in the middle of that lineup.
Oh, 0-2. Breaking ball got him swinging. And if he got anything else but 0-2, it would have shocked the house. It's the first time in the series Clark, Mitchell, and Williams retired in a row. The full house here at Candlestick. And a chance to remind you this telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Tomorrow, Game 5, Mike Bilecki and Rick Russell. 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Luis Salazar will start it off. Homered in the second inning. Single to left in the fourth and grounded out. The Cubs have gotten people on base in every inning, but they have not hit in sync.
They got a great double play started by Matt Williams last inning. Great story about you talking about his soft hands, because I mean that was a beautiful start of a double play to end the seventh.
Breaking ball away, 1-1. So again, to get back to that thing, since Williams started the double play, we've heard of a lot of things, swinging a butterfly net, weighted things, but I've never heard of anybody using a ping pong paddle as a glove. He's in the big leagues.
Boy, they were soft hands on that ball. That ball was a tough ball to handle. Dawson hit it pretty well in a low skipper. And he made a perfect strike to throw to Thompson at second.
You know, you can be around this game a long time, and you think you've heard it all or seen it all with glow-in-the-dark catcher's mitts and strings and the donut on the weighted bat and all. But now, out of nowhere, you hear a story in college, University of Nevada in Las Vegas. He was fielding not with a glove, with a ping pong paddle attached to his hand. Wow. 1-2. Now I fielded with a glove as if I had a ping pong. Mitch Williams is down in the bullpen for the Cubs. And there are a few others, too.
And you also played in a game in college against the President of the United States when he was in school, too, didn't you?
We both went 0 for 3. That's going to be a little flare to Robbie Thompson. Now, Sean Dunston is coming up. The crowd doesn't understand who triggered the argument. And naturally, they're going to take Will Clark's side.
I don't think they care who started the argument. I think this is a partial house.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Well,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that.
Well, they're going to stay on Dunston's case now. Sean grounded to third, single to center, and then hit that little flare for the base hit over Clark's head. He hammers it to center, but Butler's there. And the Cubs now are starting to run out of outs. Two down, and the batter will be Joe Girardi.
Downs talking to the umpire because the bat, after the swing by Sean Dunston, ended out by home plate. Downs wanted to know if it was done intentionally. It didn't look as if it was done intentionally, and now a little bit of ruckus down by the Cub dugout. Somebody a little bit overzealous down there. Feels that they should be able to participate in the game, which is not the case.
Little slider strike, 0-1. Here's the bat.
See the pitch by Downs, and Dunston hits it decently, and the ball just, he flipped the bat back off his shoulder. It ended up back right by the mound. It wasn't done intentionally.
0-2 the count to Joe Girardi. Mitch Webster is on deck to hit for Scott Sanderson. And the count 1-2. There's Mitch. The only other left-hand hitter available, since Wynn and Wilkerson have already been used. Sidearm pitch. 2-2. Two down in the 8th inning. Giants 6, Cubs 4. Fastball got him looking. At the end of 7½, 6-4 San Francisco. Bottom of the 8th inning, the Giants leading the Cubs 6-4. Terry Kennedy, Pat Sheridan, and Jose Uribe against right-hander Scott Sanderson. The Cubs have used Maddox, Wilson, and Sanderson, and Wilson stands to be the losing pitcher. Garrelts and Downs stands to get the win. Kennedy 0 for 3, struck out twice, and a long out to center in the third inning when Jerome Walton made a leaping catch of his long drive with 2 men on. Oh, and 1. Change curve, and he floats that in there again. Looks like he can throw that anytime for a strike.
That's part of pitching. When you find something that's working, that's what you got to use, as opposed to throwing.
Another one, and Kennedy bangs it because he got it up. He came right back with the same pitch, but he hung it.
There's a shot of the location of the breaking ball. See how high it was? That's above the belt. Big, slow curveball.
We're going to have a runner. Donnell Nixon is going to run for Terry Kennedy.
See how the ball tumbles over, but a lot of times that will happen because the pitcher on the mound will begin to pull too quickly with the pitch.
Well, it sounds like an NBC News break. Nixon for Kennedy here in the 8th inning. Joe Girardi out to the mound to talk to Scott Sanderson. Pat Sheridan grounded to short, grounded to first, and flied to center. You might remember in previous games you saw Sheridan wearing glasses, so we assume he has switched to contact lenses, especially since there is no wind here at Candlestick. They're going to make a 2-for-1 switch. Mitch Webster, who figured to bat for the pitcher anyway, he'll come in and bat 9th. And Mitch Webster finally gets a call. Mitch Williams will come in from the bullpen, and he will go in McClendon's spot, and we'll be back. Cubs make 3 moves. Mitch Webster goes into left field and bats 9th. Lloyd McClendon, who was in left field, stays in the game and goes behind the plate. And Mitch Williams goes in Joe Girardi's spot. Mitch Williams has had a remarkable year, but one thing that has bothered him and the Cubs, 13 times this year he has walked the first man he has faced in relief.
Roger Craig letting Sheridan hit here with nobody out. You think he's probably going to bunt. You wonder why not the right-handed hitter Maldonado. Roger would like to keep Sheridan in the game for defensive purposes.
A little pop fly, and it's going to be Dunston making a fine catch. And back to first goes Donnell Nixon. Good play by Sean Dunston on that little flare.
Dunston, a great athlete, great all-around athlete, great agility, great arm. Learning about the game of baseball and its fine nuances. Well, it is the development of a budding star, that young man right there. And the people in Chicago have been very fortunate to see him when he started and how much he has progressed this year.
Jose Uribe, the batter, with Nixon at first, 1 out in the 8th, 6-4 Giants. If you're not keeping score, the Cubs in the 9th inning due up would be Mitch Webster, Jerome Walton, and Ryan Sandberg. And if anybody gets on, Lloyd McClendon. Grace would be the 5th hitter due up in the 9th inning for Chicago. That follow through is remarkable. If you've never seen Mitch Williams pitch before, it is really eye-catching.
He ends up in absolutely terrible fielding position. He got hit in the head with a line drive. He hasn't pitched in over a week.
Popped in the air, foul. Mark Grace trying to get under it. Reaches in, goes in after it, will come up empty.
Another great effort by Mark Grace. Again doing battle with the auxiliary seats just down from the Giant dugout. Charlie Williams right on top of the play. Boy, are those two first basemen in this game something to watch?
When you watch Mitch Williams, watch what he does with his head. See how he keeps his head down? He says, I never look up. I don't look at home. I don't look at first. I look at my leg. I always have, so they can't tell what I'm doing with my head, and that's a big key. Most guys look at first, throw to home, but I don't do that. I look straight down, so it's tough to tell. So when you see him in a stretch position, watch his head drop as if he's looking at his right leg. Uribe grounded out, double to right, popped up. There goes Nixon. Swung on and missed. McClendon down too late. So tricky move or no, and a good accurate throw by McClendon, but Nixon wasn't fooled. Got a good jump and beat the throw.
McClendon got a good pitch to throw on too, a high 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Nixon just a good jump and good speed, just a slight hesitation but good speed. McClendon, the number 3 catcher for the Cubs. He's really the backup catcher behind Girardi and Rona. Obviously Roger Craig playing utilize the speed, get a man in the scoring position if we can.
1-2. 2-2. Uribe had an at-bat that would appear to have broken the hearts of the Cubs. That was in the 4th inning. Cubs were leading 4-3, and with 1 out, Uribe was the batter, the number 8 man in the lineup, with the pitcher hitting behind him. And Uribe doubled to right. They tried to pick him off. Maddox threw the ball away, and Uribe took third, and then, for good measure, maybe still smarting over the throwing error, Maddox wild pitched him in, and the Giants had tied it up. If ever there was a Christmas run given to the Giants, it was that run in the 4th inning. And then in the 5th inning, with the score even, Matt Williams hit the 2-run home run. Ball 3.
Another shot at Mitch Williams and how he falls off to the third base side after his delivery.
Looks like he overstrides on that pitch.
Overstrides and overthrows both.
And blows away his hitter. So Uribe strikes out, and with 2 down, Kelly Downs is due up, and Roger Craig wants to talk to him.
The supervision has this fastball at 89 miles an hour. A lot of times it isn't the velocity of the fastball, it's location. That one on the outside part of the plate, and looks like Roger Craig is going to let Downs go to the plate.
You know, Kelly Downs has probably been the best pitcher we have seen in the series, even though his first appearance, he came in the 1st inning of the Rick Russell game, and he gave up a walk to Girardi and a base hit. In fact, a couple of base hits, and then he settled down. He went 5 2/3 innings in that game, and he's been very tough again tonight. Strike. So in a series that will not be known for good pitching, Downs has pitched pretty well. 0-1. He showed bunt, didn't move the bat, and the count 1-1. See how high he gets on that chart. 1-2. Went from 88 to 89.
Delivery looks a lot smoother too, didn't it? To me, it looks like a nice, smooth delivery there. Doesn't feel like he has to overthrow against the pitcher.
Right.
Exactly right.
Hit foul right right by Wendell Kim and down the line.
Of course, it happened the other night to Bilecki in Chicago. Somebody got to 3-2 and then just laid the ball in there, and boom, remember, the bases loaded single. It's not a matter of fact that you can just lay the ball in there. A lot of times a nice, relaxed, released fastball is as good as you look at Bilecki, who had that base hit.
I would think he will have a tough night's sleep if the Giants win this one tonight, because Bilecki then will be charged with the responsibility of keeping the series alive, or else it's all over.
And we tee it up early tomorrow, too.
3 p.m. Eastern time, high noon here in San Francisco. That'll do it for Kelly Downs. All right, Webster, Walton, and Sandberg due up in the ninth. 6-4 San Francisco. Ninth inning, Giants 6, Cubs 4. Kurt Manwaring takes over for Terry Kennedy, who went out for Donnell Nixon as a runner. It'll be Webster, Walton, and Sandberg. If we learn by history, it always makes it interesting to go back. On the 20th of July, the Giants led the Cubs by 3 in the ninth inning, and they had Steve Bedrosian on the mound in Wrigley Field. The Cubs tied it with 3 runs on 4 hits and an error in the ninth, and eventually won it in the 11th on a double by Les Lancaster. You can bet both the Giants and the Cubs remember that comeback. Ball 1. Webster, a switch hitter, batting left-handed. Matt Williams plays him on the grass. Clark shortens up at first. Fly ball to left field. Kevin Mitchell is there. 1 down. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Terry O'Neill, the coordinating producer of NBC's baseball coverage, producer of tonight's game, John J. Filippelli, directed by Andy Rosenberg, replay producers Tom Roy, replay director Roy Alpers, technical director Mike Stremiski, and a low bow from the waist to Elliot Kalb up here in the booth with us. Jerome Walden popped up, flied to left, singled to center, and singled out in front of the plate. So he's 2 for 4. Hard slider, 0-1. Fly ball to Sheridan. And the Cubs now are down to their last out. They will be down 3 games to 1. And they will go up against Big Daddy, the former Cub, Rick Russell, tomorrow. And all the pressure then, especially in this madhouse called Candlestick, all the pressure will be on Mike Bilecki. Here's Ryne Sandberg. Doubled, struck out, popped up, and robbed of a key hit in the 6th inning on a diving, rolling catch by Kevin Mitchell. Strike. And it's hit into right field, base hit. So the Cubs refuse to go quietly, and Sandberg singles to right, and Lloyd McClendon will be the batter. Norm Sherry has already checked in the bullpen where Greg Lefferts and Steve Bedrosian are, but Lefferts has been throwing, and no doubt Lefferts is getting ready for one man, Mark Grace.
This entire game is really shown what the mettle of these 2 clubs is all about. Neither one of them have given up. A great 2-out base hit by Sandberg there. They have come back from deficits and hard times all year. They have shown great character.
Small consolation to the Cubs. They have out-hit the Giants last night and again tonight. So that's not a payoff window. Slider missed. 1-0 to Lloyd McClendon. He had to take over in left field for Dwight Smith, who hurt his leg, and Lloyd finishing up behind the plate. And Mike Bilecki thinks about tomorrow, no matter all the noise tonight. Ball 2. On deck, Mark Grace. The biggest crowd ever to see a game at Candlestick now sees Roger Craig make his way to the mound. 2-0 the count to McClendon. Lefferts and Bedrosian down in the bullpen.
Remember, he came in the 5th inning, worked the 6th, 7th, 8th.
And he wants Bedrosian.
Didn't take very long to get to that decision.
And Steve was the pitcher on the 20th of July, and the Cubs afford the moment to dream.
Chip Series is brought to you by Geo. Get to know Geo. Sold and serviced by Chevrolet Geo dealers. By new Keystone and Keystone Light. Bottled beer taste in a can. Wouldn't that be great? By Wendy's Old-Fashioned Hamburgers, the best hamburger in the business. And by the companies of the Prudential. Come to the Prudential and build your future on the rock.
Well, they're singing in Oakland and they're cheering in San Francisco, and standing between them, Lloyd McClendon and the Cubs. Now remember, Bedrosian has inherited a 2-ball no-strike count. And that's going to be a flare into right center, and Thompson can't catch it. On his way to third is Sandberg, and the Cubs are still alive.
Boy, a tough decision for Roger Craig at this point. Runners at first and third. The signs behind the head mean no doubles now. We want no doubles. Here you see Thompson in the glove and just out. Great effort by Thompson. The defense in this situation do not want to give up a double. I think you remember that Bedrosian led the National League relief pitchers with number of home runs given up, 12.
First and third, 2 out in the 9th. Fastball away, ball 1.
You can see how deep the outfield is. Mitchell very deep in left, Butler in center. The double, of course, to prevent the tying run, which is at first base.
1 ball and no strikes. Grace with a triple and a scoring fly ball. Away, ball 2. And on deck, Andre Dawson. It looked as if Leverage had to be getting ready for Grace, but when downs fell behind to McClendon, Craig's hand was forced. 2-0. Ball 3. Now 1 pitch away from loading him up, and Kelly Downs sweating it out in the Giant dugout. Luis Salazar and company, hoping that they can repeat the miracle of the 20th of July. 3-0. In there. 3-1 to Mark Grace.
Harvey taking 1 pitch. Make the 3-0, maybe get the tying run to second. He'll be swinging here.
And he walked in to load the bases for Andre Dawson. The tying run, Lloyd McClendon in scoring position at second. Holding at third is Sandberg. Grace at first, and here's the Hawk. We were saying it at the start of the game. There isn't that much to separate these two teams. 1 run last night. They split the 12. They split the first 2 in the LCS. Giants win 5-4 last night, and now turn back the clock 2 years ago. You have the Cy Young winner, Steve Bedrosian, on the mound, and the most valuable player at the plate. But that was 2 years ago. Breaking ball away. Ball 1. So Bedrosian has given up a bloop single and a walk, and the Cubs still above water. Boy, that was it. That was reducing the game to the fundamentals. I'll throw it as hard as I can, and you swing as hard as you can. No finesse here.
Boy, that is fastball right down Broadway. Andre Dawson just swinging right through it.
1-1. Breaking ball. And again, they're on their feet at Candlestick. Half swing, got him. No one escapes it. The years take their toll on everybody. The winning pitcher, Kelly Downs. The losing pitcher, Steve Wilson. The hero, Matt Williams. Remember tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, for Game 5 with the Cubs against the wall. Mike Vielecki and Rick Russell. Stay tuned for local news, except on the West Coast and Mountain Time zones. They'll be seen at their regular time. For Tom Seaver, Vin Scully, good night from San Francisco.
From Candlestick Park, the National League post-game report as the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs sit down with Gary Radnich.
What time to go to the big leagues, please? Right, go.
Well, the walk from the Giants clubhouse to the dugout at Candlestick.
Half swing, got him.
Everybody, you just saw it. The Giants won again over the Chicago Cubs. They now have a 3-1 game lead going into tomorrow's game. Final score 6-4. Gary Radnich will be along, we hope, in a few minutes with post-game interviews on his sit-down special.
Well, the walk from the Giants clubhouse to the dugout at Candlestick Park has been more solitary than in years past for pitcher Mike Krukow. He has not lost his enthusiasm for the Giants team that he's played for the past 7 years.
Hey, get over there, get over there.
Krukow started 1989 knowing that past injuries might haunt him. He managed to win 4 games, but by midseason, he also knew that he couldn't go on without an operation.
I had a lot of thoughts. The first one I was done. You know, when I walked up the field in Atlanta, I knew I was in trouble. And when I had the surgery, I couldn't do anything with it, and I just didn't see how the thing was ever going to work again. It was terrible. You know, it was just a hollow feeling because I knew that I could have made a contribution to this club. And this was the team I've been waiting for a long, long time.
But for heavyweights like Will Clark, Krukow is still making a contribution. He is the heart and soul of the Giants ball club.
He's one of our team leaders, especially in the clubhouse. Keeps everybody loose and sort of carefree. He's got that attitude about himself. But also on top of that, he's a gamer. He comes out on the bench. I mean, even though he might not be feeling the best, I mean, he just got through his shoulder surgery. He comes out on the bench and roots everybody on.
Even on the bench, Krukow brings a certain inspiration. Manager Roger Craig calls it an important presence.
He's just a born leader. He's one of those guys that kind of surface from the pack. You hear him in the clubhouse, on the bench. He's just always trying to motivate people, and he's very witty. He says the right things at the right time. And, you know, his presence in the clubhouse, it means a lot to the players. It just gives everybody a lift.
And last week when the Giants clinched the division, Krukow was celebrating too, in spite of his injury and uncertain future.
I gave this club my arm this year, and it was all worth it. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's okay. No, a little emotion. That's all right. Hey, why Dad's crying? How do you feel, Jared?
I feel great.
Really terrific, huh? All right.
I'll tell you what, there ain't nothing better than this.
As painful as it has been for Krukow not to be playing, he accepts the fact that he has made an important contribution to this championship Giants season.
But you got to keep things loose. There's a lot of pressure here, and we have fun. If you can't fund this game, you're in the wrong business.
Well, it's not just Mike Krukow who helps the Giants to win. It's a top-flight coaching staff. You've seen on the field how effective they can be, what has happened with young players like Matt Williams. Well, right now, Gary's going to take a look at the team behind the team.
The coaches are an extension of manager Roger Craig, like good lieutenants to a general.
Well, this is where I wanted to be, is in the big leagues. Even when I was 7 years old, that's where I wanted to be as a player in the big leagues. And I went a different route there as a coach. And, you know, I managed in the minor leagues.
Wendell Kim is a Giants first base coach. He played 7 years of minor league ball before becoming the minor league manager of the Giants AAA club, the Phoenix Firebirds. Besides working out the infield during batting practice, Kim at first base during a game helps coordinate signals and keeps base runners alert.
I'm always watching. I know the speed of the outfielder, running wise. I know his arm strength because we watch him take infield. All the coaches watch him take infield. I know the speed of the runner.
At third base is a man of many gyrations. 9-year Major League veteran catcher and now coach Bill Fahey. Fahey, as a third base coach, gives his wipes and funny signs to the batters at the plate. But Fahey takes his cues from watching Roger Craig in the dugout.
I keep my eyes on Roger constantly. You know, I miss probably some of the things that do go out on the field because I don't want to miss a sign from Roger. You know, Roger's a very aggressive manager. He likes to hit and run, steal, squeeze. He's daring. He'll try things at any time. You know, he's a gambler. It's my job to make sure that I provide him all the avenues available to win ball games.
Gary Radnich, you're live at Candlestick Park. The warm-up act is completed. We go now to the heavyweight. Kelly down 4 innings tonight to register the victory. Kelly, have you had a bigger moment in your Major League career?
No, this by far, Gary, is the biggest win of my Major League career, and especially after the kind of year I've had, as frustrating as it's been, to come back and kind of help out in the playoffs.
Let's touch on that. Why were you confident? As you said, the year you've had has not been exemplary, due basically to injury. Why, when you're standing on the mound in Game 4 of a championship series, do you feel you could do the job against the Cubs?
Well, first of all, I have a lot of ability, but I got faith in my ability. I never doubt myself. I never think of anything negative. I've always kept positive. Even after I got back, when I struggled, I kept positive thoughts, and I knew it had to turn around. I've been in a groove my last 6 or 7 starts, outings, and I feel real good right now.
When Roger came and got you in the 9th inning to let Bedrosian get the final out, you want to stay?
Well, I wanted to stay, but you know, I think in that situation, I've gone a few innings. He's got Rock down there fresh. I go 2-0 with a guy in first, and I think you have to bring in Rock, but I really want to finish that game.
You have heard the other side of the fans this year. The Kelly tonight makes you feel pretty good, most assuredly.
Yeah, it's not, it was really the first time in my career where I heard boos, and it hurt me. You know, I'm not here to lie, but that's part of the game, and that's something I have to deal with. I got to deal with the good and bad, but tonight was good, and I'll deal with it the way I can.
Could you pitch again tomorrow if they needed you?
If they needed me, yeah, I'll do anything to get it out.
Fair enough. Congratulations, Kelly. Big night.
Thank you.
All right. That's Kelly Down, tonight's winning pitcher. Now, alongside Terry Kennedy, one of the Giants catchers. Terry, you were not behind the plate in the 9th inning, but when Roger, were you surprised that Roger let him pitch to, you know, let Bedrosian go when he had Lefferts in the bullpen, let him pitch to Grace?
Well, I knew they were going to try to pitch him tough, and I was trying to think of the situation I was in if I was catching right there, what I'd be calling. Kurt did a great job, and then, you know, you got a base open. Even though it was second base, that's still a base open, and you can't let him hurt you because he's been the hottest hitter in the series. So he did the right thing. He tried to make tough pitches. He tried to make perfect pitches, and if they weren't perfect, they were going to be balls. So, you know, he pitched to Dawson, who's been having problems against our right-handers, and he made some good pitches on him.
So basically, it's, again, to bring him back up to date on the thing, they walked Mark Grace to load the bases and face Andre Dawson. So a base on balls then was not too big a concern.
Well, it's risky because that puts the tying run at second base. That puts the tying run 90 feet closer. So you gotta take your chances. I mean, Grace is so hot that you know, he might hit a home run there. So you got to be careful.
You have waited a long time for moments like this in front of a big crowd and the playoff atmosphere. Can you describe your feelings now in October, into the many years where you were waited for a chance to shine?
Last year I played for the Orioles and we lost 107 games, and we were out out of the race after 3 weeks. And for me to be here now and be accepted by the people of San Francisco really makes me feel good. And I'm so happy about what's happening right now. I hope we win. I hope we win it all, because for me to come from a team like the Orioles were last year and then win the division and possibly win the National League Championship, that's really something.
Your dad is a 40-year baseball man at every level of the game, now an executive with the Giants. You grew up on baseball. When you talk to him tonight, the first words will be?
Well, I don't know. We've been talking a lot the last few days, and he's as excited as I am. He's won a championship. He was on the '48 World Championship, and him and I are the only father-son act ever to drive in runs in a World Series. So it's something. We have a camaraderie, obviously, that most fathers and sons don't have, but he's been there and he knows how it feels.
And you'll share some of your World Series money if the Giants do go on with him?
Well, he used to be my agent, but he's not anymore, so I don't have to give him any more.
Terry, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Terry Kennedy, catcher of the San Francisco Giants. We'll take a break. The Giants now lead the Cubs 3-1. We're coming back from the floor at Candlestick in a moment.
That's a balk. Ortiz will move over to second base.
Candlestick Park. On the other side of the bay, though, they're celebrating this evening, maybe even more vociferously, for tonight at Oakland.
8 seconds.